Hi, Dav here, and today we have a new episode in the art review series, and today we'll be checking out the work of, I believe their name is Princess Illustration or Robot0403. I will be linking this page, by the way, in the description below. Now they're very similar to the previous artist we reviewed, Daisuke Richard. Heavy emphasis on the line work, and when they do color the piece, I do like this one. Um, it's very similar in that the contour. Oh, so we're zoomed in. The contours of, say, the shadows, like this Terminator line over here, they do draw in the lines. It's very similar to Cogecha, and obviously Daisuke Richard. These are the last two artists I've reviewed recently in the art review series. So for the past few episodes, I guess we've been focusing more on line work heavy artists. It's kind of the current theme, but I do like this approach. I do see a lot more black fill-ins compared to Cogecha or Daisuke Richard. You'll see it it's kind of like a comic approach, or even manga. You'll see this where there are large sort of spaces in the pages where it is just filled in with black. And it's so interesting because when they draw the Terminator line or the interior lines, they just draw in I do like how when you zoom in, you do see the segmented sort of lines, right? It shows you that you don't just draw it in one go, and you can just draw it kind of piece by piece. But that's kind of okay because when you zoom out, it's kind of hard to see anyway. It looks like one continuous thing. So just zoom in and do things in a kind of segmented manner and you'll be fine. Right, even if you zoom in here, you do see some sort of, they're kind of like bleeds, but it's like these corners over here where the lines intersect, they do color that in with more black. So I think it happens usually in some kind of intersection. So it's not just these large sort of black fill-ins, you do see these smaller ones. Compared to the other two, I think Princess Illustration here does it more. And yeah, I just see a lot of line work, like doing this sort of thing where you segment the values. I mean, you could have just left it as it is, like value 1, 2, and 3 without having to use these lines. But it's more of a stylistic choice, and it looks kind of good. Not as common, but it's interesting. So let's look at more artwork here. We have this student or some, looks like a girl buying something from a vending machine. Let's just find some more stuff here. This student over here. And it looks like I noticed in the background, they just leave it sort of white for the most part for the vast majority of their pieces. Now this one does have a little bit of a background, but it's not as like fleshed out. Let me just zoom in on this one and then open image in new tab. We do see a process here of this drum set. So let me just see how they break that down. Okay, it's taking quite a while to freaking load. I think it's because the image is just that big, maybe. So this is the colored version of this drummer sort of girl. Oh my god, it's taking forever. Jesus. Oh my freaking lord. Okay. Sorry about that. Who's this one? Okay, let me just see if oh my god, none of them are opening or loading. Okay. So we have this sort of rough sketch, I guess. Oh, look at how they're using a basic round brush. And I'm guessing they're just lowering the opacity for the final sort of inks. But in the beginning, they do sketch it rather largely, right? Making sure that they just jot down the major parts of the drums. But it's a very thick sketch compared to this one, the actual character. So, I like seeing these kinds of things because it shows you that a lot of the final drawings, they do take a lot of iterations. Like you don't just draw it in one go. Like you do have to sort of break off from your main drawing and do some, smaller sketches, smaller studies. And that's kind of what it takes to do, more fuller, larger illustrations. So we'll try to find the inked version maybe. Okay. Again, let's go here. Look at how you have some parts that are black fill-ins, right? Over here. But in some areas you do see this. Again, it's sort of the intersection thing. And they do like adding that along with the more larger sort of black fill-ins. Oh, it's more common in the folds here of the shirt or dress shirt. Very interesting. I do like the inks. It looks almost like like it was done with a Adobe Illustrator or some kind of vector-based kind of app. The hands look kind of pretty too, right? I guess I guess this is their version of adding line weight or some kind of line weight variety, because aside from the black fill-ins and these sorts of like sort of heavier ink areas, usually in some kind of intersection, if you look at the actual line, the contour lines, they're fairly consistent overall. Like even the more interior lines, whether they're exterior or interior lines, they're kind of the same width or thickness. So that's pretty interesting. So let me find the colored version. Has to be here somewhere. Okay, let me just. Okay, so this is the other ink, but this time they did work on the actual drum set. Wow. Now if you zoom in, you do see those sort of segmented parts, right? If you zoom out, it almost looks like it looks like it's a 3D model, and they just sort of copied or extracted the wireframe, right? But if you zoom in, this was all done by hand. Freaking insane. I do like this slight detail here of the, some people don't have this, like when you put your thumb and your pinky together. Hopefully you can see, oh, maybe you can't see it, but there's like a little tendon. And I think a significant portion of the population don't have that apparently, or it's only a few who have this sort of tendon. Like it's a thing that pops out when you sort of flex your hand like this. Very interesting. So I'm one of the chosen ones. Oh, I do see some nice. There you go. Nice feet too, right? Very demure, right? Like this part right here, the rendering of this sort of seat. It's very comic-ish, Like even without color, it already stands well, or can stand on its own. So I think that's pretty interesting. Also, even if there's no color, right? Look at the way they do the black fill-ins. It's so minimal. Like you have to be careful when you do this sort of thing, because you can overdo it. I know I do. Whenever I add these black fill-ins, sometimes it just goes to shit. Like I don't know when to stop. So I think the colored version. Oh, there you go. Oh, they did add some more black fill-ins in like this area in the drum set. Especially in because it's kind of reflective, right? So you do see a lot of these sorts of really harsh gradients where one part is going to be so dark, and then the next value next to it is going to be so light, which is more common in like reflective sort of materials, like this is brass or something, or bronze, who knows, some kind of metal thing. But even the reflections, they have their own contour line, so I think that's pretty interesting. But if you look at this from afar, like this whole drum set looks like it's just 3D. Very impressed with this. But again, look at let's just zoom in on the hands again. Look at that, right? You don't have to add these interior lines, but it just adds a bit of something. It's a stylistic choice. But notice again, look at the exterior lines and the interior lines. About the same, pretty much the same sort of thickness. Usually, from the past art reviews we've done, you'll notice that the interior lines just tend to be thinner, and you have this sort of thicker contour line that encompasses the whole shape, and then everything inside that is just thinner. So it creates a kind of hierarchy, but I mean, it's still readable when you look at this sort of piece. I guess it's because the moment they do add the colors or the shadows, they do add, let me just, I think it's more common or more noticeable in the skirt. You see a lot more values. So that helps build the hierarchy instead of just relying on the thin lines inside and the thick lines on the outside. So let's look at the face. Even the shadow here has a little bit of that contour line. The face is always a tricky thing because, as a rule of thumb, we don't want to have too many like lines in the face because it doesn't look as good, especially for more anime-esque types of artwork. But yeah, I think those value variations, you just have more of it in their work here, so there's less sort of need to have like a hierarchy in terms of like line thickness. So this one's pretty cool too. A bit rougher in terms of the color. Like you can see how it's kind of a quick sort of sketch or illustration. Again, with those like intersectional bleeds, they almost look like some kind of bleeding, like it's a bleed effect. You know, these, again, with these sorts of like things. Pretty cool. This one's my favorite, and this one's kind of okay too. Although this one has a lot more like dynamicness to it, just because she's moving and you can feel it. Right? Nice cat. So let's zoom in on this one. Same approach. And when they color or add the colors, you don't really see a bunch of brush textures. It's like a basic hard brush. There's no opacity even. It's like rendered almost like gouache, where it's very hard edged. No soft like gradations. Everything is like solid. You know, there's no mixing brush, none of that, no textures. Pretty interesting approach, right? You know, for some types of artwork, different parts of the subject are going to be rendered differently. For example, the skin tends to have like softer edges, and let's say if they're wearing something like clothing, some kind of, I don't know, maybe armor, maybe they'll render that in a different way. But for this artist, the way they render everything, the clothes, the figure, the environment, it's pretty consistent. Like they do the same approach for pretty much everything, right? If you zoom out, look at how the line thickness, there are two things that really just make it more 3D. Number one is the values. You see a lot of it in the folds, so it looks more robust that way. But I think the black fill-ins really help with building up that hierarchy, you know? And I think that compensates for their more consistent sort of line thickness. As I mentioned, they don't have like the outer lines are going to be like thick, interior lines are going to be thin. They don't really have that. So I think it's the values, and the black sort of black fill-ins. Black fill-ins. Interesting. Yeah, why? Pretty cool. Right? Look at how they broke down the value of the sort of inner thigh, the shadow. So we have a black fill-in, then the darker, like this sort of 1, 2, 3. Like you have 3 different values of the leg of the skin, and then you have the last one being just, you know, pure black. Very interesting. You know, I'm noticing something too. Sometimes they add like double lines, right? Interesting. I mean, I get why they did it. They did that for this part because they're trying to show the reflection. So, right, there's a certain, you can see like there's a different value here. So the lighting from the ground gets bounced and it's being reflected on this side of the leg. But I'm not sure for these ones why they have the double lines. I think it's more of a stylistic choice. Right? I think we did see it with this previous piece. Did we? Or was it this piece? Yeah, I think it's more of a reflective thing to show like the edge of it. So to illustrate that, they use 2 lines. Very interesting. It's so cool. I recommend you check out the 2 previous artists we reviewed because they kind of have the same or a similar approach. So we have another student here. She's trying to, I don't know, chase a cat or something. I do like the cloud sort of elements in the back. Even the way they're shaped, it looks so like interesting. Oh, and the colors are not as, I guess, saturated. Let me just see their feet again. Their media sort of tab. Oh, so we have like a maid here. playing guitar. We'll find another one. This one's kind of hot. Oh, and when it comes to their facial anatomy, it's semi-realistic. You know, the eyes are not like super big or something. Oh my god, we have some dogs. There you go. Pretty interesting. I do like it. It's a very unique style. Right? And they do balance that, the line work, with their sort of just a basic sort of flat kind of rendering. This one, oh, we have two versions of it. There's the line version with the black fill-ins. And then we have the colored version over here. Look at the frick. Yeah, there's a lot more on their channel or on their page. Oh, wow. Jesus. I like their work. I actually, they don't even have that much followers. We need to bring that up to like 10K bare minimum. So if you have an X account or Twitter account, I recommend you just, if you like their work, obviously, but I do recommend you enjoy what they have to offer. This one is a bit saturated, the hot pink. Oh, this one's pretty cool. Damn. That line work is crazy. Oh, we have a succubus here. Oh no. Come on. What's this one? Okay, I think we've opened up a lot of like pages here, so we're gonna have to actually zoom in and see what they're doing. Look at that. This one does have some environmental elements. It's not even the full room. It's like things in the room, like boxes, some kind of amp, something, guitars, a chalkboard in the back. Yeah, they have a lot of work to show off here. Now this piece right here reminds me a little bit of a Daisuke Richard, because they do a lot of like flying sort of people, or it looks like they're floating in like some kind of spatial thing. So let me just zoom in on this one. Oh, look at that. Pretty clean too. It almost looks like some kind of architectural drawing, because like for those of you who have used Google SketchUp, there's kind of a style, a preset style where the inks end in this way. I guess it's kind of a bleed effect as well. Like it really happens mostly in like the endpoints or corners, but it does have that architectural sort of sketchy vibe. Like an ink drawing, like an archy interior design ink drawing. Pretty cool. Let's show you this one. Same thing. Oh, the jacket looks amazing. I mean, if you think about it, it's only two values, right? But because of the adding just that line to encompass that shadow, it just sends a different effect, right? So there's value 1, value 2, but it's the line work and the this sort of parts where it does get thicker and then thins out a bit. Like all of the thin lines are pretty much like one sort of thickness, but it's these sort of like things that just give it that extra bit of love. Or Jesus, right? So they're into like pop stars or some kind of cultural. Yeah, if you zoom in, check out the imperfections in the line work. It doesn't really matter though, because when you zoom out, it looks freaking awesome. Oh wow, this reminds me of my non-existent girlfriend, but come on, imagine waking up to this, right? Oh my gosh, she's so cute. I do like the legs. They're kind of thick. You know, there's some nice calf like definition there, and you can be a bit more sharper with your again with the double lines here, as you can see the here and here. But also look at how if you zoom out, it's not always like a curved line. Like you can sort of like, yeah, it's curved, but there's like segments and they're kind of straight sometimes. And it does give you that more graphical kind of look. You know, it doesn't always have to be, even the cat is the most obvious one here. It's like an architectural drawing. For those of you who've been to archi school or design school, but I think it's mostly common in like this kind of like straight sort of drawing style with like bleeds in the ends, like curve and then straight, curve and then straight. I think interior design and definitely architectural design sort of fields when the sketch is kind of this way. But the way the hair is done, it's very comic-esque. Oh, again with those double lines to show that kind of reflected lighting from the environment. Pretty cool. Look at that. Same thing here. Oh, this is the black and white version or ink version. I think it's the drawing definitely that takes way more time. But once you have that, everything is, it's like a coloring book. You just add in the colors. And I think for the skin, they pretty much stick to the same sort of colors. Interesting. The shadow color here is different from the one here. So they do have some slight variety in values for the shadows. Oh, they do add like a soft brush for the blushing of the cheeks. So we have more like rock band musician types of characters here. There you go. There you go. Jeez. Oh my god. Wow. That's great. Perfect. Right? Yeah, those bleeds are really good. It looks very SketchUp-esque. Did they do this in SketchUp? At least the environment, because it kind of feels that way. But even if they do the non mechanical stuff or non like basically the characters or the actual people, it still has that same thing. Look at the bleeds here. It just adds that extra bit of like weight to the lines. Perfect. And I'm so impressed by how people do folds. I mean, look at even this guitar over here has like those reflected parts. Very cool to look at. Oh, that's so hot. You know, the pick, right? I prefer the pick with the hole, but I do get why people are, because as much as having the hole kind of pick it's kind of comfortable. It's sometimes the flexibility is just not there compared to say when you have the sort of triangular pick or guitar pick. Man, this one's so hot. Oh, the book too. Like she's reading from some kind of guitar book, for the chords or for the notes. Kind of hot. So maybe this artist has a thing for musicians, because that's a kind of a common theme in their work. And yeah, they're not afraid to use, again, compared to Cogecha and Daisuke Richard, they have this artist has way more black villains in their work. They're very close to like the comic sort of look or manga look. Well, let me look at the skin. Oh, they do have like a spot here where it's a bit where they added this sort of soft brush thing. Same thing with the cheeks. And I like it when they add this sort of white spot over here. It just makes certain parts of the body look more shiny. Very interesting. Oh, something's a bit different here. They have another value here, but they did not add like a line for it. It's very light though. It's almost hard to see, but it's there. Look at those legs. Like, god damn. Oh la la. Ooh. That's how it's done. And they like cats apparently. Meow. Look at that. It's sort of realistic in terms of the proportions, but at the same time you can feel a lot of the abstraction. It's almost like having a for those of you who've used like Photoshop, there's a cutout filter. It sort of abstracts and breaks down any kind of image to like really basic sort of like shapes. I do see that with this artist, Princess Illustration or Robot something, and the Cogecha as well. Very interesting. I think we've already seen this before. So yeah, I guess that's it for this art review because there's so much work to explore here, but I think we've done enough to. Yeah, I also think they like legs, and I've noticed like the legs they typically like illustrate. They tend to have a little more thickness. So like I'm used to seeing these kind of legs because I don't know. We from where I'm from, we just tend to have thicker legs, even the women. So to be fair, it is, most of the work is sort of closing in on realism a little bit in terms of the proportions. So I do see why. But yeah, like what I mean is the calves are pretty much close to it's almost the same size or thickness as the thighs. So I do like that. you know, you don't often see it in like anime stuff because it first of all it's kind of like exaggerated when you stylize stuff, but also the standard is to be like really thin or something. Damn, they have so much work here, so I do recommend you follow this artist on X. And yeah, I will link their page in the description below as well. So hopefully you enjoyed their work because I know I do. And yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.